Hello and welcome, I'm Andy Richmond and thank you for joining us for our look at the Green Bay Packers visit to the Baltimore Ravens, which is brought to you by NFL Insight. We'll cover some of the betting markets, reflect on previous games between the two teams and how they've started the season. We'll also take a look at some of the important tactical elements within the game before we round out the preview with a small sample of our live match trading statistics, which form the basis of a lot of our trading decisions and strategies on Sunday night when we'll trade this game live. Let's take a look at the prices on the game first that are offered by the bookmakers and how they compare with our NFL Insight tissue price, which we have available for every game that we trade. In this instance, we agree with the market and there really isn't much juice in the prices, our tissue being only a couple of ticks away from where the prices are at the moment. These prices are a great way to judge if there's any value in the market. At the moment, we'd probably leave it alone. The bookmakers and the market probably getting this spot on. These prices, they're produced by profiling hundreds of similar games, where we calculate the numbers from those. All the games have got the same structure and strength. In this game you can also see we produce a win percentage and how the first points are scored as well. In this case we think there's a 32% chance of the Packers scoring the first points with a touchdown. That'd equate to around a 2-to-1 chance. That gives you a chance to compare the prices with what's on offer in the market. If you can get longer on the Packers to score the first touchdown or the first points to be scored by a touchdown, then that's probably pretty decent value. All of these prices are available via our trading sheet, so you can compare a real price based on hundreds of similar games with what you're being offered in the marketplace. They infect your own tissue in your own hands. They would prove incredibly useful if you are betting or trading on the game. Plus, we've now added sheets which give you an accurate guide to what sort of prices you should be expecting given the time or score in the game for either side. Let's take a look at the prices on offer on the Matchbook Exchange now. Take a look at the money line first. The Packers are 1.79 favourites, and that's despite being 0-2 on the road this year. And there appears to be plenty of faith in the Packers. They are, after all, quite a public team. And it's not surprising, as on their day, the Packers still have a very, very destructive offence, which we'll go on to have a look at a little bit later. As with the money line on the handicap, the Packers are asked to give away a token point, but that doesn't really affect the price too much. And you'll have noticed from our earlier assessment of the game that we agree with the handicap that the Packers are asked to give away, even though they're away from Lambeau Field. Finally, with Matchbook, we take a look at the points line that's set at 48.5. And with these two, I'd expect an offensive game, and for the points total to go quite close to that line. We'll just reflect now on the past meetings between the two teams. There haven't been that many actually. Only 3 meetings between the two franchises over the past 12 years, and just 4 meetings overall. Of course, the Ravens are quite a young franchise, whereas the Packers are one of the oldest in the NFL. The Packers have won 3 of those contests. The last one was actually 27-14. How have they fared this year? Well, the Packers, they're returning from their bye week. They're yet to win on the road. 1-2 at home, lost 2 away. The Ravens, they're at home. We saw them last week. Hard-fought win against Miami, and they're 2-0 at home. So something's got to, well, not something's got to give here. Maybe the Ravens' home record has got to give here because they're 2-0. They're unbeaten at home. Packers still looking for their first win on the road. Let's take a look at how so we've got 5 factors which affect each team and how it might influence their approach to the game. We'll start with the Packers, and the first thing to note is that they've had a tremendous amount of injuries already this season. The biggest blow of all probably came in their last game in that victory over the Lions when linebacker Clay Matthews broke his thumb. He's out for between 4 and 6 weeks. The injury to the barnstorming linebacker now means that the Packers are weak in that department. With Matthews, Brad Jones and Robert Francois all injured, the Packers will now have to rely on AJ Hawk, Nick Perry, Mike Neal and Jamari Lattimore at linebacker. The good news from this week is the absence of Morgan Burnett's name on the injury report. He played against the Detroit Lions in Week 5 and was a big reason that the secondary had so much success. It'd still be nice to see the Packers healthier than they have been this season, but it seems every time they get a player back, another one gets injured. That was very much the story of last season as well. As crazy as this may sound, it appears as if the Packers need to improve their consistency in the passing game heading into this game with the Ravens. Green Bay have left a number of big plays on the field in its game with the Lions. Part of that was the fault of quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and part was the fault of his receivers. They need to get on the same page. They're not quite in sync at the moment. The Packers, they've really struggled in the air in 2 straight games. In week 3 against the Bengals, they couldn't seem to get their passing game in rhythm. Fortunately, Green Bay has had incredible success on the ground in recent weeks. While the offensive balance is certainly nice, this team's built to be one of the best passing games in the league. However, in the last 2 games, it hasn't acted like that. The passing game will need to get back on track quickly if the Packers want to have success against Baltimore this week. Now, an integral part of that passing attack is Randall Cobb. Cobb has become such an important part of the Packers' offence. It's hard to imagine them having the same type of success without him. The way he makes such a huge impact is using his versatility and athleticism to consistently make big plays. All in all, Cobb is proving more and more each week just how important he is to the Packers' offence. His versatility and athleticism will only offer a bigger piece of this offence moving forward. As good as he's been this season, he's only going to get better. Don't be surprised if he's established himself as not one of the most important receivers on the Packers roster, but an elite receiver in this league very, very soon. Randall Cobb, real player to look out for the Packers. I've already mentioned the Packers linebacking core in relation to their injury problems, but even with that predicament, they must get better defensively in the middle of the field. That's an area the Ravens will be looking to exploit. Green Bay can only be thankful that this area, usually exploited by that type of player, is a top-class tight end, and with Baltimore missing Dennis Peter at the moment, this may be one bullet the Packers are able to dodge. The Packers have developed their running game this year, and some will say to the detriment of the passing game. We've already mentioned that, but it has given the offense a far better balance. And I think they're still coming to terms as how to use the run game effectively in an all-round attack. Running back Eddie Lacy will be at the fulcrum of the running game, and he impressed in his last outing against the Lions. Remember, he's still only a rookie. He'll have better numbers than he had in that game, but it was the manner he gained them that impressed. He picked up a lot of yards after contact, 51 in fact, and Broker avoided 4 tackles while turning every one of the 8 gaps at least twice. He's a very, very mobile running back, and he will hit the gaps. It's the way he changes the point of attack that can really help the Packers here and to establish a lovely balance. It's now time to take a look at the Ravens' keys to the game. The first thing they must do is protect Joe Flacco much better, quarterback Joe Flacco. He's a durable quarterback, we know that. It just doesn't mean you can let him take the punishment that he did in week 5. He was sacked twice, hit 7 times, and many of those hits were of a bone-crushing variety. Pro Football Focus, which is a database I subscribe to, is an excellent database, calculates that Flacco is under pressure on 40.1% of his dropbacks. That's the 9th highest figure in the league. That has to change for the Ravens to improve and thrive. Against a high-octane offence like the Packers, it's important to keep them at arm's length or control field position. And Baltimore will need a better kicking game against the Pack than they had versus the Dolphins in order to do that. Sam Koch, who's the Ravens punter, was not good against Miami. And like Justin Tucker, their kicker, in week 2 against the Browns, it might be an anomaly, but it needs to improve moving forward. The Ravens have a defence that can shut down opposing offences. It's vital to win the battle of field position, especially against a high-octane offence like the Packers. You need to keep them as far away as possible. Now, we all know that the Ravens love to establish a run, and to do so they need to block properly. That was evident in the game against Miami, when there was plenty of hoopla around in the Ravens running game, but at last they got that running game going, and they gained 100 yards on the ground for the first time this year, but they did so with an average of 3.3 yards a carry. The run blocking looked much better than it has all year, but there's still room for improvement, especially with the Ravens carrying a running back threat like Ray Rice. Let's talk a little bit more about that running game, which improved. Although it improved against the Dolphins, still has a way to go yet. Both Rice and his cohort Bernard Pierce fumbled against the Dolphins, and neither really broke a tackle for a big game. The running game, well, it was functional and no more. That certainly needs to improve. Rice needs to be more decisive with his cuts, and Pierce needs to just put his head down a little bit more, maintain balance as he hits the hole. They're not really doing that, and these are a duo. They're a good duo. They need to get better though, and they need to control the ball against the Packers. Pressure on the quarterback will be an all-important factor in this game, and the Ravens can't just let a quarterback like the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, stand there and pass. They've got to generate pressure on him from the outset. Against the Dolphins, the Ravens' defensive front wasn't able to pressure the quarterback consistently, Ryan Tannehill in this case, but they managed to do so at important points in the game. It's a common theme that when the Ravens needed their pass rush, the pass rush delivered, and it's got to be the same here. The Ravens got pressure on 6 of 15 third downs, including 3 sacks. while the third downs they didn't generate pressure on, and they were really speedy to react. The pass rush must deliver again on Sunday. They've got to be speedy, and third downs will be very, very key. I mentioned at the top of the show our exclusive trading stat sheets, and these have lots of information about how the sides have responded in certain situations before and how often they go on to win the game in certain situations. These are just a guideline and price. These give you a guideline and a price to compare with what's on offer at that point from the bookmakers. Here you can see what the true prices should be in the following situations at half time. And we also take a look by comparing games of a similar nature, how likely situations are to happen throughout a game. In our live trading room on Sunday night, we have the ability to predict a live tissue price and how likely statistically certain outcomes are to happen, such as what is likely to happen if the sides lead by a certain score at half time, and what are their chances of leading by a certain margin in the second half. As we've already mentioned, we have developed a spreadsheet which can price the match throughout the game, depending on the current scores and the time elapsed. These are exclusively available as part of our Insiders Club. Those statistics are a small taster of the profusion of data that we have available in those sheets. They're exclusive, as I said, to NFL Insight, and via the live updates that we're able to issue in our live trading room, it makes it a lot easier to assess match situations, and the odds are available at an instant. These match previews are just a small part of what we do at NFL Insight, so if you like what we do, be sure to subscribe to the NFL Insight TV channel via YouTube for all the latest previews. I'll be back with further match previews on all the big games on the NFL, and make sure you also check out our betting focus previews via our website, which is www.betting-insight.com, where we look for all the best betting opportunities on the game once we have taken into account all the tactical factors in this preview. Come and get involved with us at NFL Insight for all your NFL previews, statistics, trading views and betting advice. NFL Insight is at the forefront of a new way of looking at and betting on the NFL.